Hey there, Greg Smith here, and in this video we're going to look at early extension in your golf swing. What is it? Why do we need to fix it? What bad shots does it cause? And more importantly, how do we fix it? Okay, so what is early extension and why do we need to eradicate it from your golf swing? Well, basically, early extension is the forwards movement of the pelvis going towards the golf ball in the downswing. So when I say that forwards movement, I don't mean sway, I don't mean laterally towards target. What I actually mean is forwards towards the golf ball. Well, why would that cause a problem? Well, actually, it can cause a whole array of bad shots. So we can hit hooks, pulls, slices, pushes. If you're a player that's very handsy through impact and has difficulty controlling the club face, you can bet early extension will be causing complications with that move. And we can also hit the dreaded shank with that as well. So hitting the ball out the hosel or out the heel of the club. As that pelvis moves forwards, we throw the hand arc forwards in extreme cases, and that's when we get really poor shots. And also just a general lack of speed. If we're not getting the pelvis moving correctly, then we're not going to be able to generate speed. So we definitely want to get rid of this. If it's in your golf swing, we want to get rid of it and get you moving the pelvis better through impact. Now, in this video, you might be a little bit surprised as to the main culprit for early extension and when it actually happens. So I'm going to go through that in a little bit. But if we look at some of, well, what could be the possible causes of this early extension? Well, we could maybe talk about lack of flexibility. So maybe if you're a bit tight in the hamstrings or in the glutes, you know, we might find a bit of a weakness coming into the ball. Maybe some problems at setup with posture that could potentially cause an issue. But I think in general, it's just golfers not really understanding how the pelvis should work, both in the backswing and in the downswing, to bring the club nice and square into the ball and to generate speed. So let's have a look at some examples of early extension. I'm just going to go over into my 3D software. And then once we've done that, we can figure out how to fix it. Okay, so we're here in the 3D software, and one of our clients that we've been working with online, classic early extender. So just going to show you this motion as he goes through into the downswing. So look at that pelvis really driving forwards towards, well, this is actually a practice swing, so there's no golf ball there, but where the golf ball would be, a real kind of forwards motion coming into impact, and it's quite extreme in this scenario. So again, just play that through and look at that pelvis thrusting towards the golf ball. Now we can view that from the target line as well, so it's quite interesting watching it from this perspective. You know, we can see nice posture angles there at setup, and then because of that forwards thrust of the pelvis, we can see that this player loses posture, he stands up, the torso comes away, loses all of those angles, a classic early extension. Now what we can do is we can bring up some numbers here just to quantify that. So if I just bring this up and let's bring it into the impact position, and this number here at the bottom of the screen on the left hand side, pelvic thrust. So basically thrust is the either forwards motion of the pelvis, so that's towards the golf ball, or the backwards motion of the pelvis away from the golf ball, and it's measured in inches. And what we've got, what's really cool with this 3D software, let's get rid of these lines, is it gives us a nice little range that we see from Tour Pros. So basically we're looking from somewhere between minus 0.7 inches, so that means away from the ball, to plus 1.1 inches. And obviously we can see with this player, he's well out of that range. He's 4 inches forwards with the pelvis coming into impact. Let's just bring that back to the down the line view. Now here's where it gets really interesting. Well, first of all, actually, before we get into that, notice how as the pelvis moves forwards coming into impact, look how the chest and the head move back. So that's why we lose these posture angles. That's why this player stands up coming through to impact, because the pelvis goes forwards. We've got to create space to be able to strike the ball, so the chest and the head moves back. So again, if you're a golfer who lifts their head through impact, then maybe it's not the head that's at fault, maybe it's the fact that this pelvis is kind of thrusting towards the golf ball, and that's what's causing that issue. Okay, let's get rid of this line. So here's the interesting part. Let's go back to setup. So we're seeing that this pelvis moves forwards coming into impact, but watch what happens throughout the backswing. So let's go to backswing club horizontal. Look at that pelvis thrust number now. That's actually gone to 2.3 inches forwards. So right from setup going into takeaway, this player has shifted the pelvis towards the golf ball. Let's see what happens as we go a little bit further. Goes even further forwards, look. So now he's up to 3.1 inches. So that's quite interesting, isn't it? If we have a little look at where this player is at setup and then up to the top of the backswing, he's moved 3.1 inches forwards towards the golf ball. Now, if we bring it into the downswing, 3.8 inches now, so he's continuing going forwards, and then 4 inches. So 4 inches seems a lot, moving the pelvis forwards towards the golf ball, but he's actually already 3.1 inches forwards by the time he gets to the top of the backswing. So that means he's only moving another 0.9 inches forwards coming into impact. So we look at this impact position here, and we see he goes very, very tall, and we see the pelvis goes 4 inches forwards, but the reality is that the majority of the damage has been done moving from setup up to the top of the backswing. And this is what I'm seeing with a lot of players, more and more players that are getting this early extension move, this thrusting of the pelvis towards the golf ball at impact. It actually starts in the backswing. It starts right from that move away from the ball. The pelvis goes forwards. Then as we get to the top of the backswing, the pelvis goes even further forwards. And then as we come down, it might go even further forwards, or it might just hold position. But the damage has already been done. That pelvis is too far forwards. We lose posture angles, and there's a complete lack of space through impact. So that is the hidden culprit for early extension. A lot of the time, this is happening before we even start the downswing. It's happening in the backswing move. So we can see that hidden culprit of that pelvic thrust or that early extension actually happens in a lot of cases in the backswing. So going to the top of the backswing, the pelvis moves forwards, the golfer comes out of posture, and then a lot of times coming into the downswing, they actually just maintain that position. So think of it this way. If at impact, you've got 2 inches of forwards pelvic thrust, but at the top of the backswing, you've already got 1.5 inches. Well, then just by getting the top of the backswing in a better position, we've brought that pelvic thrust at impact down to 0.5 inch. Now, I'm not saying that we don't want to focus on that downswing clearance. We definitely do, because it's just going to help you to hit the ball better. But by getting the pelvis into a better position at the top, then that's going to give you a head start. And then, of course, that downswing movement, if you get the pelvis clearance working in the downswing, then it's going to be win-win. You're going to deliver the club nice and squarely into the golf ball, and you're going to have tons of speed as well. So one of the common causes that I see, and this might be for golfers who have lack of flexibility, is as they get into posture, they try and create a really dynamic posture, but they really push the pelvis back. So the hip joint is way behind the ankle joint. And basically, with golfers who are limited with flexibility, that puts the hamstrings and the glutes into a stretch position, sometimes quite an uncomfortable position. So, of course, what are you going to do if you're in that stretch position and you go to the top of the backswing? You're going to want to relieve that stretch. So I always like to see a nice athletic posture at setup. But if we go too deep with the hips and push back, there's only one way to go. We're going to go forwards. So I think not a bad idea, rough rule of thumb, when you're getting in your setup position is we want this that athletic position. We want the torso over the ball. We want the hips back a little, but really we kind of want the hips, so they're kind of on top of the ankles. And then from there, it makes it easier to get into that deeper position. So that's the first part. We want to make sure we're in a good posture position to be able to get there. The second part then is understanding how the pelvis is set at address when we're in this position. If we bend forwards, then that pelvis is in a tilt. Now, if you then try and turn on a horizontal plane, you come out of that tilt and look what happens. My pelvis goes towards the ball. So the second thing that we need to do once we've got this good posture is we need to make sure that we keep that pelvic tilt and, more importantly, pull this trail hip back. So forget about trying to get this flat hip turn where this left hip goes around this right hip. What we want to do is we want to create a deep hip turn where this trail hip goes back and we stay nicely in posture, and this kind of trail hip is behind the ankle. And then all of a sudden, look where we get to with this move. So I'm getting so my hips are kind of over my ankles, then I push my trail hip back as I get to the top, then all of a sudden I'm almost in pelvic thrust, negative pelvic thrust, so it's going back this way. It's giving me loads and loads of space. So that's the second thing that we want to make sure we're doing. Create that deep hip turn. The hip goes back, it doesn't go around. That is going to get you in that better top of the backswing position. And then the third point, the third key area that we want to make sure we do is then that downswing move. So we get into a better setup position, we get into that deeper hip turn going back because we're turning on this tilted axis that we've got the pelvis in, and then on the downswing we basically want to do the same. So again, if you then try and put a level hip turn, a horizontal hip turn in that downswing move, guess what's happening? That pelvis again is going towards a golf ball. If, however, from this better setup position and then this deeper hip turn going back, we get a deeper hip turn coming down, so this trail hip goes this way. We don't twist the right hip round the lead hip. The lead hip goes this way to really create almost like a diagonal motion. We're starting to move this pelvis back. We're also starting to clear, so that's a really good thing that's happening in the golf swing. We're starting to move this pelvis out the way, and we can start to generate tons of speed. So basically, if you think about that, once you've got this really good posture position, it's basically a case of trail hip goes back, lead hip goes back. And if we can get the hips kind of working back, then you're going to be able to turn in posture, you're going to be able to hold this really strong pelvis position, and you're going to be able to get rid of that early extension move. So let's see if I can do it. So I'm going to get into my setup position. I'm trying to get my hips so they're over the ankles, and then as I go to the top, I'm drawing this trail hip back, and then as I come into the downswing, the lead hip's coming back, and it's going to give me a nice angle posture and hopefully a ton of speed. So there we go. Nice clean strike, nice ball flight, and tons of speed. So I hope you found this video useful. A quick shout out as well to Sportsbox AI. I'll link to Sportsbox AI below this video. It's a great software to monitor your golf swing. You'll be able to monitor this pelvic thrust in your golf swing and practice it and see kind of the ranges that you're trying to achieve. So again, I'll link to that below this video. If you found this video useful, please give it a like and share. And also you might want to subscribe to my YouTube channel to receive notifications for when I upload more videos on how to transform your golf swing. Thanks for watching.